bringing you the truth no matter how far down in the sump we find it. This is 665.66 UHM Rat Radio, the voice of Vox Free Innsmouth. Riots have broken out across the Manufactorum districts. The Glass-Eater prophet Marius Redeye has been stirring up the Habs all over the Underhive.
Well, Gabo, at least it's raining inside. Maybe it'll help put out all those fires.
Well, that's a good point, Marky. We're bunkered down here at the Bolter Brain, surrounded by as many guns and muscles as you can shake a fist at.
Yep. A lot of warmongers around here, not going to lie. Lots of aggression, testosterone, and small penises in this room.
It's actually Backney.
I am your captain for this cruise into the madness of the interstellar void, Goblin King, joined today by a lunatic crew escaped directly from Bedlam Asylum, starting with the fire-starting freak himself, Marky.
Fellow people, hello.
Dual fisting a pair of grenade launchers is Beast.
Hello, everyone.
Dual fisted.
Loaded down with the fists of fury is Chuck.
Hello, how y'all doing tonight?
And I've been instructed that I have to announce our next host very specifically. The Carmel Mountain himself, Roogan.
It's caramel.
Yeah, I was like, still pronounced it wrong. Caramel.
Caramel? That's right. Like Care
right.
Bear. Okay, I'll redo it. Shit.
The caramel king. No, it's better that you didn't.
No,
it's very cute.
All right, guys. Well, this is our 9th episode for Lorus Obscurus, I feel. That sound about right?
Yeah, we got a few.
Yeah.
A couple.
No, it's our 8th episode. Our 8th episode of Lorus Obscurus. We are going to be talking about Bigfeet and where to find them this time. So we're specifically going to be going into Bigfoot hunting and kind of the quest of people who study cryptids and who are trying to prove that Bigfoot exists. However, this is also the first time that we are joined by Roogan on the podcast. So Roogan, we wanted to kind of go over a little bit of your history with Warhammer 40K. So when did you start playing Games Workshop products? Was Warhammer your first game? Was 40K your first game?
Yeah, 40K was my first game. What was the year? I've been playing since I was 16 or 17, so about 12 or 13 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 40K was my first game I played from Games Workshop. Started off with Necrons, Matt Ward, so that's fun.
So we're talking like 5th edition?
Yeah, like about mid 5th edition is when I started.
Okay.
So that, and that's pretty much when I met Chuckerfly as well.
Been grooming him since.
What armies do you play other than Necrons?
Nowadays, I'm mostly playing Death Guard. I'll bring out the Necrons once in a while. Chuckerfly and I have a house army that we're both currently working on, which is Space Marines. I'm usually using them as salamanders. And then I do own Chaos Knights as well.
So you guys have been somewhat playing together, I'm assuming on and off for 12 plus years?
Yeah.
That is correct.
I wish I had a friend like that.
You have us now?
Wow. Wow.
Marky, this is how you get thrown off of the cruise ship. I'm just saying.
Right.
Oh, Tom, that's right.
God
Shit.
damn, dude. I actually gave a fuck about you. That would have hurt.
Don't make me pull this podcast over.
Right.
So you made it sound like you play more than just Warhammer 40K. So what else do you got going on?
Recently, probably within the last couple of weeks, I just started dabbling in Kill Team a little bit.
Okay.
So that was fun. Just learning the rules, kind of getting the basics down.
You don't gotta lie, dude. You can say it sucked.
Blood Bowl as well. Been playing a little bit more Blood Bowl this year as well. Yeah.
How long have you and Chuck been playing Blood Bowl?
We've actually started playing once the second season came out.
Okay, so still fairly recently, yeah.
Together, yeah. And I played Blood Bowl probably like 12 years ago, a couple leagues.
Really?
Yeah.
How much has it changed since the last season or edition?
It's still just as goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest change is a little bit more streamlined. Before, there was all kinds of like wacky things for the armor, like different math equations you had to do.
Yeah, like
Now
old
the-
school 40K almost.
Yeah, now the stat is just
Weapon
if
skill
you roll
against
this or
weapon skill.
higher.
It's simplified, and plus the models are so much cooler looking than what
Yeah,
they
way
used to
nicer.
be.
I'm not gonna lie, I did like some old school 40K models more than like not so much more than, but it's like I guess like the whole nostalgia thing.
There are very, very few models that I have like a nostalgia plug for, and they're almost universally the ones that everybody finds like absolutely hideous and ugly. I really like the old Necrons, the original like radar dish gun metal Necrons. Those look dope. The old Gauss rifles looked like they had a radar dish at the end of them. And I really like the old Tyranid models that no one seems to like.
I really liked them too.
The deranged peanut spiders.
Them and orcs. Orcs look great.
Well, I like the old Grots.
Old Grots.
Oh,
Yeah, the old Grots for
Grots.
40K that got the big gun.
Yep.
They have a big old rifle back in the day.
Back in the day. Now they get Grot pistols.
Yeah.
Well, there used to be Grot Sniper. I don't know when they went away or whether or not they should come back. Grot Snipers would be fun.
Grot snipers would be dope.
That'd be awesome.
A whole Grot army.
I think at one point we had tossed around. Oh, we did. We totally did toss this around. The whole idea of making an orc army and having all of the orcs be the guys with choppas and pistols, and have everybody who has some reliance on ballistic skill be a Grot that's just been converted. That'd be fun.
With all the big shooters and the looters.
Yeah,
I always like the idea of like having a Grot army, but it'd be so hard.
I've seen them.
The guy who did the Grot Guard.
Oh yeah,
so awesome.
Yeah, that was like the best thing I've ever seen.
Right.
Blood Bowl, Kill Team. Anything else you want to catch us up on? You're more of a rules heavy guy, correct? You're more into the rules side than you are into the lore side of the game.
And hobby.
Yeah, I would say more than the hobby. I like the lore. I just don't put as much time into it. But yeah, definitely love the rules. Definitely our rules dedicated player here between Chuckerfly and I. He makes the armies look pretty, and I make sure he knows what he's doing.
Cool.
That's fair.
That's why I know I'm rolling dice.
Why am I? What do I need?
Yeah, he just claps his hands, and I'll leave my game to go make sure he's okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
When Chuck yells "Judge," Matt comes running.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah, he actually pushes judges out of the way.
Well, yeah, they don't know.
Depends on the tournament.
You know how many like just from a convention coordination standpoint, from a tournament organizer standpoint, the number of times that we're like day 2 and somebody would come up and this isn't like, for those of you listening to the podcast and for those of you really heavily into the Warhammer 40K scene, realize that a lot of times the tournament organizers that you're playing with are not 40K tournament organizers. They are tournament organizers. Depending on the event, they might be balancing a Magic the Gathering tournament in another room against the Warhammer 40K tournament happening on the front side of the LGS and the Age of Sigmar tournament happening on the back side of the LGS. So there are times, especially in a convention setting, where there's a Fortnite game going on, a Magic the Gathering game going on, a Warhammer 40K game going on, a Blood Bowl tournament happening, and a guild ball tournament happening all at the same time. And somebody will invariably find you and they'll ask you some question that's very, very specific to a rule that was written in the 6th edition Imperial Guard Codex that hasn't been overwritten. Nothing has been written about it. And they're like, how do you feel about this? And you're like, I don't know. Tell me the scenario. They tell you the scenario. They're like, no, you cannot take your tanks off one table edge and bring them on the other table edge because of a typo in the 6th edition book. Well, I already did it. Well, I guess those tanks are out of play now. Well, what do you mean? But this rule, because I'm the TO and I said it's done.
Yep.
So
well, that's why they have referees and what are judges.
Yeah, a lot of judges walking
exactly.
around.
Exactly.
How big the tournament is.
Would you say
it's always one of those things, though? It's always in the middle. You're always like, what are you talking about? But you have to, as a tournament organizer or as a judge, I think we talked about this really early on too in the podcast. You have to be in the position to make a decision quickly and then stick by that position. I'm being tongue in cheek about it and kind of poking fun at it, but always be in the mindset of those are very interesting points. This is how we're going to rule on it. Now, to resolve the game, I am more than happy to sit down with you and actually look into it after the fact. Like, always kind of be in that position, but be ready to make that snap decision. Like, even when it comes to like a Pokemon, tournament or a Magic the Gathering tournament, is the same thing applies. Quickly look over it. If it's something that's in dispute, it means that without calling the person who wrote the rule, which you actually used to be able to do with both Magic the Gathering and Warhammer, but you can't really do that anymore. Do you guys remember that when you could call in and ask questions? We used to do that. We used to come up with something in like 3rd edition and we'd call the hotline and be like, we don't understand this rule. And then somebody would go get the book and would tell you what you were supposed to do.
Damn, it's like before the internet.
Yeah, there's that gray area where somebody's going to have to make a decision about what happens and then just come back later. Like, make a decision to move the game along in a way that makes everybody happy.
Like the book always says too, if nobody can come to agreement, roll that die.
Exactly. Yeah.
Odds or evens, baby.
There's some people that don't like that, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, it gives everyone a fair chance, especially if you guys can come to an agreement on it.
Yeah, it's like, instead of wasting your time, if there's no like
hard
judge
that
is right next to you right away.
Yep.
Like, hey man, instead of wasting 15 minutes, 20 minutes trying to get somebody over here trying to figure this out, you want to just roll for it.
Yep.
Like, that's what I do. But some people have like some kind of contention about it. Like, oh, I'm not rolling for this. There's a rule for a reason. It's like, yeah, there's a rule for a reason, but I also kind of want to play.
Those are the guys that always have to be right.
Yeah.
And then they're usually wrong when the judge comes over.
Serious question. So you got a Magic the Gathering tournament in one room. You got a 40K tournament in the other room. Who wins in a fight?
It honestly depends on what time of the day it is.
Well, also, is anybody playing old school demons where all the
models are metal?
Old school sisters?
So, all right.
So what you're saying is the 40K players have weapons.
Yes.
And the Magic players. All right. Let's say the Magic player is really good at throwing cards.
Or we just
fuck someone up.
Okay.
You fuck someone up.
It depends on the time of the day. Midday, I'm going to give it to the 40K players. Later in the evening, I'm going to give it to the Magic the Gathering players because there's something about the late night Magic crowd that just makes me go, y'all traffic weapons or people, don't you?
There's more numbers of them late at night, especially in the front.
and there is certain type too.
The game requires absolutely no effort.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna be tired after 8 hours of playing 40K.
Yeah, because you're
bent
standing
over on a table.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'd agree.
What really wins in the convention sense when that game breaks out, though, is the Fortnite kids, because there's a lot more of them. They're a lot younger, and they are hopped up on Mountain Dew and Cheetos.
I was going to throw a wild card in there, and then you have a Pokemon tournament down the hall, and they're trying to break it up. Now, they get their ass.
You literally just let that sort itself out.
10-year-olds and hipsters.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, based on most places I've been to recently, it's gonna lean towards the 40K players, myself included, seem to be a little more salty and meaner and older.
Oh yeah.
And older.
You can just say, you're just older. All that mattered in that.
So what you're saying is 40K players are just better than everyone else. That's what you're saying.
That's what Chuck's saying.
No, see what I'm saying? Yeah, they're the worst of everyone else. That's why they would kill everyone else.
So I think what I actually heard was if you have old pewter models, you come self-equipped with weapons. And if you're an older player, you probably have a walker or crutches or an oxygen tank with you, which are
you can start slaying around.
Or Chuck, you have one from each category.
Hey, also
walker and the pewter models.
And rage.
And rage. Angry at the world. So.
Fucking back edition bullshit.
I remember back in 2nd edition.
I remember back when the pages had borders.
Hey. They were scrolled.
Hey, also, if you play Chaos, man, you face smush somebody with like a Chaos model. Oh my god, that's gonna hurt.
Like a demon, like an all metal demon prince,
right? All metal Slanesh army. There you go.
Yeah, there you go, man.
Man, there was something about
Black Lotus, right?
something about 3rd edition plastic Eldar, dark Eldar models reaching into the bucket, not the bucket.
Yep.
You're reaching in to get your army, and you're literally like getting stabbed. 30.
You stab yourself.
You bring out 2 models in your hand, but you got like 6 hanging off because bayonets and fucking shoulder spikes are sticking in your fingers.
Looks like you just tried to pick up an alley cat.
Yeah. So we had an admin station on the first floor where most of like collating data and all that stuff happened, because that was the only floor that we had computers on. And then on the third floor, we had a judging station, and the judging station took down everybody's like handwritten notes and everybody's cell phone recording. Like, a lot of running a fan convention is having people use the apps that exist, like the ITC app. I can't remember the name of it, for the ITC Battles. Is that what it's called?
That's one of them. Yeah. ITC Battle.
Yeah. Having an app like that you record stuff in, and then you go and you show it to the tournament organizer. You show it to the tournament organizer who's collecting data. But at that judges station on the third floor, we actually had a sign behind it that said unattended children will be given Red Bull and taught to play either Magic the Gathering or Warhammer 40K. And parents either didn't get it and would ask us what it meant, or would look at it and start laughing. We're going to get your child hopped the fuck up on sugar and teach them a game that's going to bankrupt you. That's what we're going to do.
They get a free drink, and I don't got to teach them the rules. This is yeah, right? Chuck and I was like,
that's a win-win here. Take one of my armies.
Yeah, like split that Red Bull with me, and we'll call it good.
You got a deal. You're getting the wrong message from that, guys.
Yeah, there's a Japanese market I go to, and they have a sign up in their like kind of somewhat like toy section, like memorabilia and whatnot. And it says unattended children will be given to the Goblin King.
Very nice.
Pretty good.
Is there a picture of me anywhere there? I'm just wondering.
No, was Dave. Yeah.
This is a Lorus Obscurus episode, and as we do with Lorus Obscurus, the price of entry is a ghost story. Roogan, Chuck, neither one of you guys have shared ghost stories yet. So who's up first? Who's got a spooky experience?
Let you go.
They experienced.
Have either of you been inappropriately touched?
Why is that always your first question?
He's just curious.
Are you asking about?
It's a legitimate question.
Have you ever been sucked off by a ghost?
That's not what I said. Now, if that's what happened, I'm still.
How much is that?
Where is this?
Where does this happen?
Where's this at? Yeah. Would you? But not knowing who or what that ghost was.
Doesn't matter.
Hey,
ghost
man.
is not
In my mind, the succubus, and it's all good.
As much as we're currently laughing at the idea, listeners, if you've had a ghost sex experience, you should send it to us and we can read it during a Lorus Obscurus episode.
Yeah.
Ryan's like, you should send it to us so we can read it.
So we can read it
during the podcast.
Yeah, when everyone's here, not just.
Yeah, I got to proofread.
I have this tingly sensation on my balls.
I got to proofread. Hold on.
Don't
come in.
Gotta make sure it's appropriate.
Be in my bunk.
Told you not to come in when I'm cleaning my room.
Mom, I'm in my room.
I'm hobbying.
It's just
leave me alone.
My paintbrush. It's my paintbrush.
Put the shower on.
It's for the podcast. I swear.
All right, hit us with a ghostly story. Come on. Who's going first?
Answer my question
I'll
first.
go ahead and go first. No, I haven't.
Oh, damn.
You can ask Chuckerfly, though. He still hasn't answered.
What do you want?
Have you ever been inappropriately touched by a ghost?
Sucked off by a ghost.
He didn't say no.
Oh, my God.
Not that I know of.
Not just giggling.
Damn, I'm the only one, huh?
Marky, you're gonna have to share this story, buddy.
You shared it. It was like the first episode.
Old man Gubbins.
You said your butt got wet. You did not say you got sucked off by a ghost. I
never said sucked off. Tom said sucked off.
Hey, Marky's very progressive, okay? Whatever that ghost wants to do,
that ghost got a good handful.
Old man
I'll tell you
Gubbins. Old man Gubbins sucked his ass off.
There you go. Now, see, Marky didn't say no that time.
Didn't say no.
He wanted his fuck back.
Oh, my God.
My ass is so wet. Someone sucked on
it. And once I got rid of the rock, he let my ass cheek go, dude.
Yeah. Once you get your rocks off, man, that's usually how it works.
That's usually how it works. They're free to go.
He got what he wanted.
Yeah, the ghost got what he needed.
I should have grabbed a rock from one of the chick ghosts, man. Damn.
It still would have been old man Gubbins.
He's like,
my rocks.
Little boy, where you going with my rock?
I'm gonna suck on that ass. Oh my god. The visual I'm giving myself is horrific.
Yeah, you should have been there.
It's worth it. The vision I'm giving myself is horrific.
Like
it's worth it.
Yeah, it's not a joke at all. This dude motorboated my ass cheeks, and you're over here making jokes.
So you over here making
You better storm out right now.
Talking about my traumatic experiences now, huh? Is that what we doing?
All right.
So to answer to your question, Mark, no, that has not happened to me.
Man, I'm the only one.
That we know of.
I'm the only one.
All right. So I would probably say one of my earliest experiences would be, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 years old, give or take. I was spending the night at one of my aunt's house. So it was a 2-story house. Downstairs was normal. It's just like a living room, kitchen, whatever. But the upstairs was just a loft. So it's just a big open room, 2 beds up there, like a king and a whatever, like a fool or a queen next to it. So my cousin and I, we were staying up late, and my uncle and my aunt had fallen asleep. So we were playing, laughing, doing whatever kids do. And then all of a sudden we started hearing footsteps going up and down the stairs.
Were you downstairs when this was happening?
We were upstairs.
You were upstairs.
Yeah, we were
in the loft.
Yeah, we were in the loft with my aunt and my uncle. So they were sleeping on their bed, and then my cousin and I were on the other bed. And so we started hearing stuff, and we were like, whatever, we're kids, just keep playing. Finally, we were like, okay, it's getting kind of loud. So we look over into the hallway, and then we both, even to this day, we just talked about this probably about a week ago. But yeah, we ended up seeing like some kind of like shadow or something coming up the stairs.
Nope.
Probably about, I would say, around 2 to 3 feet in height. It was just all black. Nope. You can tell the outlines.
No, keep going.
Okay, you're like freaking me out with your eyes over there. Anyways. I distinctly remember it having like real long dangly fingers. It looked almost like a goblin. And yeah, so it ran up the stairs, and I saw the shadow on the wall, and so I was like, what the hell? And then as it came up, it was like still like a shadow, essentially, if that makes sense, like after it came through the doorway. So it was just like a black figure, but like I said, you can obviously tell the hands, the feet, the head. It was like almost like giggling or laughing as it was running up. And then we both put the blankets over our heads and passed out after that. We're like, nope. We're good.
Were the eyes darker? Like even though it's like dark, you could still tell where they were, but it was still black?
To me, the way that I remember it is the eyes were the only thing I could see the light through. So the eyes were essentially like translucent. Ooh. Yeah. So like when it was walking up the stairs, I can distinctly remember the shadow on the wall, but where the eyes would be, I was able to see the actual wall on the other side of it.
I was like, it sounds so creepily like mine. It's terrifying.
I was going to say, it sounds just like mine.
It sounds like a mix between your black, your shadow man,
leprechaun.
Yeah, and Marky's jumping leprechaun. That's exactly what I thought. I'm like, this is an interesting mix.
All right.
Of those two.
That's so gnarly. Right when you said he was like 2 to 3 feet in height, and I was like, oh, I've been here.
Well, if you listen or watch a lot of the shows that do all the ghost stuff on TV, a lot of times shadow figures are about that size.
Really?
Yeah. And a lot of times there's one of the shows, I haven't seen it in a while, but they like do their recordings and they show the stuff people post on YouTube. Mm. Every time it's like a little black figure. It's like 3 feet tall running around.
Yeah.
We're going to do Men in Black and Black Eyed Kids at some point, but just to let you guys know, those are both like concepts that it's one of those things where like, is everything that we experience supernaturally just our current cultural understanding wrapped around things that have existed for thousands of years? Like, elves and hobbits and all that crap, all of those concepts, all of those ideas come from old folklore. These are things like the hidden folk, the Hildefolk of the Icelandic and the Vikings are like they're little people that like live in the rocks that no one can see, and they come out and they do things. If you've ever seen that, I can't remember the name of the movie. It was Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell's the singer.
Yeah, the Eurovision. Yeah, he gives an offer to the Hildefolk, and then they kill the dude with the knife.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah. So like, there's this whole idea of anyway. So we'll get into it. We're doing it. Future episode of Lorus Obscurus.
Don't forget, it's not just the children with the black eyes anymore. There's adults now with the black eyes.
They grew up.
That's like a big theory.
the Men in Black and the Black-Eyed Children are theoretically the same entity or same collection of entities, but experienced in different ways. And they show up in similar circumstances. Like the reason that the movie Men in Black is named Men in Black is because there's been this idea since the 1930s on that when wiggity crap happens, there's just these kind of official looking G-men that show up and they do G-men-ish stuff, but they never actually act like real people. They kind of act a little bit off, a little bit strange. And the same thing with the Black-Eyed Kids. They show up when this like kind of wiggity crap is happening, and it is going to require probably just like Bigfoot's getting a couple of episodes. It's probably going to require a mini series for us to cover both of them, but they're interesting idea and they come a lot into this. There's the shadow people that we talked about originally, and then these are kind of like the other side of the coin. But anyway, I'm getting us way off. Chuck, what do you got for us? Where's your story?
So I've got quite a few. I have a little background. I worked on the railroad for over 20 plus years.
We'll share one because I want to hear multiple.
We'll share one this time. I'm going to share one. So I was a track inspector. So I'd get the little pickup truck to go on the track, and I worked a lot of nights. And I was in a place here locally on the bluffs, cruising along one night. And it was the way it sounds is like right out of a story. It's a rainy night. I got the high beams on. I'm going down. I'm heading south. And on the other side of the tracks, like right where the cliffs drop off, there's kind of like a blue-gray figure. And I kind of describe him kind of like Ian McCollum playing Gandalf. When he plays Gandalf with the long beard, he's got like tattered clothes, and he's just standing there like looking out to the ocean. So I slowed down, and he never moved. He never looked at me, and I kept going. I'd be out there 2 nights later. I'm cruising along again, same week. There he is. Doesn't move, doesn't nothing. I gotta keep going because like trains are on my ass. Like I can't stop and like talk to him. 3rd night that week. Same thing, same dude, same spot. So I called the previous track inspector. I said, hey, got a question for you. He seemed like weird crap at night too. I was like, hey, I got a question. On the bluffs at this milepost, have you seen this guy? Oh yeah, he's there about 3 times a week. And he ain't real because I've thrown rocks at him. He hasn't moved. And every single time he was like that blue-gray kind of look, and just like a lost sailor looking out into the distance.
So are you driving along the tracks like on a special car?
I'm in a pickup truck that has it's called high rail gear. So it's gear that comes down like little mini train wheels, and I'm on the track like a train, but I'm a truck.
And you're specifically looking for like brakes in the track or whatever?
Yeah, track defects.
Would this guy be around randomly, or would he be around when there was like weird conditions?
No, he was just all the time, anytime. And when I talked to my counterpart that used to have that route, he's like, oh yeah, I see him all the time. I've thrown rocks at him. I've yelled at him. I've honked the horns at him.
And he's never
sat there staring at him. He never turned around. So out there on those bluffs here in San Diego County, there's somebody just hanging out.
Have you ever done any research into trying to figure out who it is? Like did an old sailor or something die there?
That spot, no.
Okay.
There are other spots I've looked into, and there's some creepy stuff.
Wiggity.
Yeah.
So you have more rail stories for us, right? Like this isn't the only one.
Yeah. No, that's not the only one.
That's awesome.
Oh god.
That's super awesome.
You work a lot of long nights. And another one real quick that didn't happen to me, but it happened to an environmentalist. So a lot of times environmentalists have to come out. They got to inspect everything before any construction happens.
Right.
And a lot of times I'd go out with this lady because that company didn't let the women in the company, they didn't like the women being out by themselves.
Right.
Out in the middle of nowhere. So like whenever there was a rail job, there'd always be a guy with them. So they felt fine. And we were swapping weird stories. And she said one night they're out here in this county, like more East County. And they're out there in the middle of the night walking, really, really overgrown with trees. And they came to a clearing. There's something standing in the middle of the clearing. So they went to the middle of the clearing. Someone had gathered all these dead tree branches and made like a stick figure and had a sign on it that said, "Beware the Wicker Man." So I asked her, "What'd you guys do?" She said, "Yeah, we literally just turned around and walked away. Like,
yeah, you fucking leave. You just that's it. That's okay. Nope, I'm out.
I learned my lesson with Blair Witch, man.
I thought forever that shit was real.
Right?
Like when it first came, a good job.
Right?
Like I thought for real,
the boogers and everything. Dude, sold it. Yep.
Yeah, so
I was like, those motherfuckers are dead.
Yeah, I was like, how the fuck? It's real? Like,
how'd they get the?
Why
footage?
is this not on the news?
They had a story on how they got the footage. You know, like they did everything, and like for reals, I saw that and I was just like, dude, this shit's real. Like,
it's so crazy, right?
I was like, this shit is fucking
it was
real.
like, what's that other movie, Cloverfield?
Oh yeah,
where it's almost like, it's almost like a handheld documentary.
Aliens and all that.
I see. Yeah, that's one.
The craziest, not the craziest, but the closest story I've got to somebody thinking it's real and being convinced it was real was I knew a gal in the San Diego area who was absolutely convinced that paranormal activity was real and it actually happened. And I was like, it's not, it's fake. I know the house it was filmed in. It's really close to I used to work with a haunt in the San Diego area, and the owner of the haunt owned a house really close to where paranormal activity was filmed. And like this gal just didn't believe me. So at a certain point, we got a couple of us got together and arranged to take her to the house. And she just she flipped out, and we're like, it's not, it was a film set. Like, I don't understand.
Grab my leg. You guys feel that too?
Yeah, you feel that too? It's in the air.
She was convinced we were gonna get murdered in the house
right
in
now,
the middle of the day with no cameras around.
My ass.
PTSD kicking in right now.
All right, guys. So as we're gonna get into Bigfoot, and Bigfoot's a cryptid, do either one of you guys have a cryptid experience?
Yes.
You have a
All right. All right. Tell us.
So
did it touch Marky's butt?
It would.
It's about to.
Like you weren't no cryptid then.
It's not real.
Yeah.
It's not real unless it touches you.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, I'm telling you, a ghost grabbed my ass. All right, I promise you.
We believe
promise you. I have.
We believe it's just as much as you bring it up and as defensive as you get.
I believe it.
Out of all my ghost stories, this is the one where I'm like, I believe in ghosts.
That ghost was like,
let me grab your ass and I'll see.
I
the ghost
promise.
I mean, I've grabbed it and I don't blame him.
Well, yeah,
that's like not the point.
It's like the second tallest caramel mountain around. You know,
I'm gonna give him a bit of a spook.
All right. So what was your cryptid experience, Chuck?
All right. So I got two of them. The one I'm going to go with is the first time it happened. So again, on the railroad, I was on a machine heading towards San Diego on the track. Just about probably about 3 or 4 miles north of SeaWorld Drive, but on the track.
Okay.
And so at night, you know, the lights from machines can only go so far, so you can kind of see shadows and stuff. So I'm doing about 15 miles an hour, and I look over and I see two things running next to my machine, just out of the light. And they're kind of, the rear ends are higher than the front end, and they're keeping pace with me. Well, I'm coming up where there's a culvert.
Okay.
One of them, culverts, you know, hole under the track for drainage. One of them dives into the culvert. So I'm watching this. The other one starts to backpedal. It stops, comes to a stop, whips its head right up at me, and is watching me as I go by. Just two beady little red eyes as I kept going by. I think it's a chupacabras. That's what I think they were.
That would make sense. That would track. Red eyes,
blood.
Hind quarters higher than the front.
Yep, and pretty creepy.
So, what all could you make out of them, or were they just two like shadowy figures?
They were just out of the light, so I could see they were probably
like dogs, like almost like dogs,
like a
dog
size
shit.
of a dog, but like the rear end was way higher up than the other one.
Kind of
Yeah.
like
Up in the front.
how a hyena looks, where their back
I mean, it
end
was
is
like
up.
sharp. It was a sharp angle. Like it was like
Oh,
drastically
okay.
different. You
So
know,
like
it
a
was
gorilla
drastic.
running on its knuckles, essentially. No, because you said the back
Or like
end
a
was
human running
higher.
on all
Yeah.
fours, maybe.
Yeah.
like a human running on all fours. Yeah,
like that style.
yeah. It was totally like
And
warp shaped.
And you were
Yeah, you
going
guys ever seen Horse Girl?
15 miles an hour?
She like
Yeah, I was going about 15 miles an hour, and they're keeping pace with me.
Yeah, the girl who runs like a horse.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she like jumps the like little obstacles
Yeah.
and shit.
Yeah, she's real weird.
Yeah, she like can jump a full bench, like so it's gnarly.
No,
but
I
like
have
her
not seen
ass,
that.
her ass is like way
Chuck
up
would
in
just
the
freak
air, and,
out.
like,
I'm
her
gonna
head's
have to
way
watch
down,
that
like-
later.
No, you're
Yeah.
gonna get scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be like,
Hey,
that's
guys.
the Chupa thing.
I
You
just
start
don't
think I'm
screaming.
getting
That's the
scared.
Chupa
I'll
thing.
be in my bunk. How about you, Roogan? Have you had any cryptid experiences?
Not that I know of. Not really cryptid. More like
More ghosty.
ghosts and extraterrestrial stuff. Yeah,
Oh,
Ooh.
Now,
All
technically,
right.
someone could
could
dispute
technically be
that
dependent.
cryptid is extraterrestrial as well.
Which is right in lines with Bigfoot.
Yeah, save that
Bigfoot
UFO
alien?
stuff.
Yeah.
Save that
you
UFO
think
stuff.
Bigfoot's an alien?
Do I think Bigfoot's an alien? No, but do I think that there are certain cryptids that could be aliens? Yes. Or well, vice versa. Do I
Right,
think
right.
that aliens could be cryptids? Like that's more what I'm
Okay,
saying.
okay.
Is like people may think that they're looking at an alien when they're looking at a cryptid, or vice versa.
So let me know, guys, because our goal or our path, so to speak, is to move from Bigfoot into the Pine Barrens, because the Pine Barrens have a lot of cryptids associated with them. The Pine Barrens of New Jersey, the Pine Barrens of Texas. There's a lot of creepy cryptid stuff that kind of exists in Pine Barren areas. But if you guys want us to hit aliens first, we could.
I want to look into, because I just saw a thing recently. Speaking of a cross between cryptids and aliens, but the like cone head people of like Aztec, like Mayan culture.
Oh, the skull
People with-
elongation.
The skull like cone head people.
Like
Yeah.
Indiana Jones.
That we don't talk about that Indiana Jones movie.
That'd actually be an interesting one to talk to Chalk about, because they would do that by like wrapping your skull
Rings
as an
around their head.
infant. Yeah.
Oh,
and
kind of like when they
elongate
did
your
rings
shit.
around like
Yeah,
the neck
the
to elongate
giraffe.
their neck.
Giraffe neck ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but like there's people that have talked about like because everybody, social media is a source for inaccurate information.
They have like a splitting
thought it was
headache
the
all the
truth.
time.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like when you're an infant, your head's not fully formed, so it's soft and pliable.
Or like where they like mush your foot into like
Yeah.
some-
into that like
Yeah.
little ball.
Yeah, very
essentially.
similar.
Monkey
Waist
paw.
training, it's all sorts of body
It's crazy.
modification. But like some people, say that because these skulls that they found, some religion worships them, whatever. There's a thing in Tibet that has a Yeti skull, and they won't let anybody touch it to give it scientific analysis. But there's a full blown skull, like top of a head. It's like from the brow up, and it still has hair. And the hair is actually the color of orangutan hair. So there's a lot of people.
Interesting.
Remember my whole talk about like Bigfoot originally, and it being
Yeah.
like the great Asian ape, and then
Right.
things like that. So it would make sense.
Gigantopithecus.
Well, Gigantopithecus. I mean, Chalk had dissected that one to death, but the fact of like there's a great Asian ape, there's the African apes, things like that.
And there are no apes in the U.S. in
Correct.
America.
Correct.
I learned that from Chalk. And
Yeah.
then I tried to make a joke saying that, well, I've seen him at the zoo, and then he ignored me.
Yeah. That's all part of what my theory on Bigfoot is the fact that there aren't. Yeah, you're right, because they're all extinct, but except this one.
It's just like the ghost grabbing my ass. Like everybody just ignores me, man.
So-
I don't ignore you. I like
Yeah,
that story. I want to hear
none
more
of
about
us
it later
ignore that.
when this is over.
So
Some candles.
Big candles and reenact it.
Oh, well,
on the
But-
subject of Bigfoots,
anytime
Yeah,
the wife
yeah, I was
slaps
like-
my ass, I'm just like, oh God,
To bring
oh,
up
he's back.
to bring up that closure on the alien heads to cryptids and stuff, that's the thing, right? So you have this evidence, that you can't diagnose, you can't test it, and that's what that's a cross between a cryptid and an alien, because we actually have physical proof, but there are some people that believe them to be something different than what tests have shown. And that can even be brought back into, you know, Bigfoot in the sense of it's like, is it an alien? Is it a person? Is it these things, you know, without evidence, you know, without any proof?
Well, and there's that, I think we brought him up when Chuck was on the episode, but there's that island in like, I don't know, somewhere in the Indonesia area that they found they found the Hobbit bones on.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So apparently there's now a little bit of debate. I don't know how serious the debate is, but there's a little bit of debate as to whether or not that line is actually extinct, because there are stories all over that island, and there have been for centuries, of little people coming and messing with local villagers. And at first, scientists and anthropologists did what we do everywhere. We're like, oh yeah, of course, like that. The Icelanders have a theory, the Vikings have a theory, the Hungarians have a theory, the Native Americans had a theory. Everybody has little people, whatever. They just hand waved it all off. And then they were like, oh shit, we found bones.
Well,
and they're saying that the bones that they found may not be as old as they thought they were. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I worked with a guy born and raised in Hawaii, and I forget what the little people are called there.
Pygmies.
No, not in Hawaii. They're not called pygmies.
No, not in Hawaii. And there's lots of little aqueducts and things like that all over the islands that the gods, you know, the god legends say these little people worked for the gods and they built them. There's a U.S. census on one of the islands with those little people.
They are called.
They've been tracked on U.S. paperwork, official documents.
Interesting. They are called the Menehune, and they are described as being no taller than 3 feet. They're apparently visible only to each other, but they can make themselves visible if they want to, and they are known for completing amazing feats of masonry. They're
gnomes. They're fucking Hawaiian gnomes.
They're Hawaiian gnomes, 100%.
So my dad, whenever we talk about like little, I don't want to say people, little things, I guess little creatures. People, little creatures. My dad used to play this game called Death Trap Dungeon on the PlayStation. I didn't have any games. I had a demo disc, and he had his Death Trap Dungeon game. And there was one night where he was playing it, and it's essentially a dungeon crawler. And I was sitting on the couch behind him, and he was sitting on a chair in front of like a big screen.
Oh, right? I remember this game. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and so he's running through the dungeon. I remember hearing like a little thing, like kind of snicker, like laugh. And I walked up behind my dad, and I was like, "There's something behind you." And he's just like, "What?" And he looked back at the screen, and there's like these little goblins that have like little mini pitchforks, and they stab you in the ass, and they run away. So right when I said that, my dad's like, "What? Oh, fuck!" And he got stabbed in the ass. And like as he's like turning around, you see the little goblin like like running away. It was hilarious. Yeah, I'll never forget that game. Like, get little goblins to stab you in the ass and run away.
Yep.
Definitely lots of stuff that we can dive into. But to get us back to Bigfoot, who is not a little person, who is not a little creature.
The opposite.
Bigfoot's the opposite, a big creature.
It depends.
Big
little man.
Well, there's actually a couple different theories. Like there's actually a movie called The Man Who Killed Hitler and Bigfoot. It's a great movie. Everybody should watch it. It basically is a dude. It's that guy, the old Western dude who he's got the big mustache. He was in
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott, yeah. He plays this dude who assassinated Hitler. Well, but Hitler had like doubles, so he's like, we didn't fucking do anything. But he killed Hitler, and then they were like, hey, we need you to kill Bigfoot. And he's like, what? And they're like, but they made it like legit, like in the movie. Best line of that is he's like radioing, like he's in Canada, you know, and he's like running through the forest, and he like radios him, and he's like, yeah, I'm on his trail. And he goes, you know, he's not that big. He's like, he's the size of a regular person. Like, and the whole thing is like Bigfoot is actually like relatively like tall, skinny dude. Or like not tall, but like a skinny dude. Like he's just got big fucking feet. Like
reminds me of the what is it, the Extremely Goofy movie where they had Bigfoot
Yeah.
And he's just
yeah.
big and lanky. He's got a gut, but he's big and lanky. Dude, that extremely goofy movie. It was a great movie.
The perfect cast. But no,
man, the fucking screen pictures of what this Bigfoot thing looked like in that movie is creepy as shit.
For the man who killed Hitler and Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's weird, right? Like
he's got he's got no nose. He's got like Gollum-sized eyes. It's creepy as fuck.
Yeah, it's dope, dude. Like I actually well, and that's the other thing too, is spoiler for anybody that hasn't watched it, but the whole thing is that he's got rabies.
Oh God.
And because now Bigfoot has rabies, is he's infecting everything around him, and it's a whole chain of events.
We gotta kill him.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, is that why he's being sent is
kill him,
shit's getting crazy. Rabies. Yeah, well, shit's getting crazy. And he's attacking people, But that was the thing, is Bigfoot, they may not necessarily be big himself.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
it's just his feet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, if you look at gorillas, for how tall they are technically.
Really small penises.
Their feet aren't that.
I don't look at
their feet are large.
What?
Their feet are large, but in comparison to their height,
right, and other things.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Penis
well, and they're not always.
That tonight, Mark.
I was just saying it's a scientific fact. I'm just saying
they're not always standing upright too, and that's a big
So you're saying it's we're seated into them, or
no? They like trolls. No, Mark, I'm not talking about that. Like trolls in World of Warcraft. Trolls in World of Warcraft are the same height as humans in World of Warcraft because trolls are constantly stooped over and kind of drag their knuckles. But if a troll were to stand all the way up, it'd be 14 feet tall or whatever. So a gorilla, the gorillas generally walk around on their knuckles. And a silverback gorilla, if it stands all the way to its full height, how big is a silverback gorilla? How tall is one, right?
Yeah, they're actually not that, if they're standing up all the way, they're actually not much taller. I think they're 6'5". Yeah. What's crazy is that their arms are quadruple the length.
That's taller than me.
Well, but I mean that's
not hard to do.
Yeah, that's 2 inches taller than me. You know what I mean? That's not that tall.
To beat, so.
They average between 4 and 6 feet tall. So they don't get that, but they're bigger than us. They're much bigger than us, which is what Tom's getting
to. Rip your fucking arm off.
Yeah, exactly. They're not
the amount of muscle mass on a goddamn gorilla is ridiculous.
Oh, there you go.
Chuck is essentially a gorilla.
Oh God, damn!
That's a picture of the Bigfoot.
Dude, it looks like the Mummy without the wrap.
Yeah, dude, the Bigfoot looks creepy.
Yeah, it's like a zombie almost,
Is it an old school movie?
Or? No, they just made that a black and white picture.
Poster.
Yeah, it's I'm telling you. Oh, here you go. That's a.
It came out in 2018. It's not.
Oh wow, that's recent as fuck.
Yeah. Really? There's also apparently a movie that just came out called Primal Rage, not the video game, but a movie that deals with the same premise. Is
that any good? I want to see that. I saw that.
The screen cap I found of the Bigfoot thing that looks like it's wearing a wood mask standing behind a little girl is freaky as fuck.
Okay.
I don't know if that means that the movie's any good though.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Did I tell you what happened the other? So a new, not Primal Rage, but a new video came out, a new film about Bigfoot. I think it's just called the Sasquatch or something.
Sam Squatch.
And I was like, oh my God. And it's the synopsis of it is one of the best documentaries to date. You know what I mean? About that. And I was sitting there, and my girlfriend was right there. And dude, she just fucking ripped me. I was like, God damn, dude, there's no coming back from this. But I was like, oh my God, there's this new documentary. We should watch it. And she's like, oh, great. And I was like, what? You don't want to watch it? I was like, look, it's supposed to be the newest, all that stuff. And she's like, it's just another fucking Bigfoot documentary. Let me guess. They don't fucking find him.
Don't find him.
Oh, fuck. She's like, we haven't heard about it in the news. So spoiler.
Didn't find him again.
So there's this, I guess it's an older movie, but I saw a little, not really about Bigfoot, but it's an older trailer that I saw, a movie called Odd Thomas.
I've heard that.
You ever hear about that, Ryan?
Yeah, my fiance loves the Odd Thomas books.
Yeah, so like I just saw the trailer and it's basically about like almost it looks like a little spirit or a demon that like latches on to people that have like negative energy, but like the guy that can see it can see like this demon floating around, like basically like dodging people and
Oh yeah, I think I saw a preview for that.
yeah, it just looked gnarly and I was like, well, I'm gonna be watching that movie next.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch Dead Like Me? I think was the name of the show. The space station mirrors toilet hits, I want to say, the Ally McBeal gal in the head and she dies. But like there's something is going on where like if you die in a dumb circumstance or if you die at the right time, death basically comes down and says like, hey, I need help bringing souls across. Like that's the whole premise of the show.
Oh, I remember.
There's like four Grim Reapers. There's 4 characters that play Grim Reapers that kind of like travel around and like usher people in. In the television show's cosmology, there's 2 types of deaths. There's the deaths that are ordained and there's the deaths that are random. And the deaths that are ordained, like there's somebody to help you cross over and all that crap. But the deaths that are random are things like mass shootings and stuff like that. The show is like a dark comedy sit drama thing. I cannot recommend it because I don't remember much of it. And I don't remember it being like better than the Gilmore Girls style. Like it's that style of show. But the gal that I was dating at the time watched it. I remember there was one, like that. There was one episode where it centered around a mass shooter, and the mass shooter is like walking into a bank with an AR-15, and coming out of his back is this like gremlin made out of like cables and smoke. And it is the coolest looking monster to that point had seen in like a TV show. And they were called gravelings. And gravelings were the things that manipulated people to cause death accident, not ordained death.
Randomly.
Yeah.
Yes. And they looked so fucking cool for being
that sounds
like,
fucking cool.
Kind of shitty show. Yeah. It wasn't that it was a shit. I mean, I'm sure it was a great show, but it's like just to be perfectly honest, I don't get the Big Bang Theory. It's not funny to me. And I'm supposedly the target audience. I understand a lot of people like it and a lot of people have value in it, but it's not a show for me.
Yeah.
And that was like this. Dead for Me was not a show for me. It just had this cool
on
thing
Big Bang.
I think they said something about it.
Oh, okay.
I know that they had like an episode where they talked about it.
We're gonna talk about shows. New Girl is pretty good. If you guys haven't seen New Girl,
you're not a fan? Deschanel show.
Yeah,
I don't. She bugs me. I'll be perfectly honest.
Oh, I watched it for the dudes. Dudes are fucking hilarious.
The only part I saw was when she was like, "I'm on meth. I'm gonna eat this phone." Like it was like a meth sandwich. Like that's the only.
She wasn't that funny. The dudes were fucking hilarious.
So ever since the famous Patterson Gimlin footage was shot, which has been debunked.
The Bigfoot footage.
Yes. If you have seen Bigfoot footage or if you've seen Bigfoot stills, even now, like as you were just saying with the documentary, I guarantee you that documentary uses a chunk of that footage. They all do.
Yeah, they all do.
It's that super, super famous stereotypical Bigfoot. But ever since that hit the American culture, people have been hunting for Bigfoot. And I know that people Bigfoot hunt, and I know that they go out and they get their little motion tracking cameras and they wear their outfits and they mimic Bigfoot calls, but that's it. That's my knowledge base. So Beast, walk us through what Bigfoot hunting is, where it takes place, all that sort of stuff.
There's a few different types of it. Right. So there's people who go on, you have like the Bigfoot hunters, which are like the weekend warriors, right? They're people who live in areas where, you know, Bigfoot has been cited, you know, or stories have been talked about. So usually pretty like rural wooded areas where you are, you know, 20 minutes from town is a 150 fucking miles of forest, you know, and usually by a mountain range. And so usually the town is because obviously most towns are not in mountain ranges, but they're at the bases. Right. So, you know, usually these forest trails and stuff are going up into the mountains. So the weekend warrior, hunter that I call is the people who set up trail cams, the people who usually own property fencing to this wilderness, and they don't actively hunt. It's what like we would call like
they more monitor.
Exactly. It's more of like a passive thing. They go out, they set up trail cams to see what's out there.
Okay.
So those are like your weekend hunters, right? Those are the ones who are like, they have a room in their house where, instead of us with 40K, they have pictures and news clippings of Bigfoot.
They got all their little maps.
Yeah, exactly. And they do it. It's more as like a hobby. Similar to like people who watch like murder mysteries and shit like that. It's it's very much seen as something like that. Then you have people who go Bigfoot hunting when they are on their nature hikes or their camping trips, right? So they're active outdoorsmen, they're outdoor people, persons who are going out on, that's their hobby is, hiking and doing things in the outdoors. Right. And they will Bigfoot hunt and that's like their, oh, hey, we heard this place has sighting. Let's go camp at the park. And then they go backpacking through the trail, and they don't really bring camera equipment. They bring like pretty generic stuff, but they're more hunting for the experience.
3 months later in the wrong season when it's moved on.
Yeah.
They're like Bigfoot droppings.
People who are out hiking anyway, who are just like, hey, let's spice it up a little bit, essentially.
Yeah, well, it more or less kind of coaxes them where they go, and they'll be like, oh yeah, we heard Bigfoot there, let's go. But the proof is in the sense that they don't bring camera equipment. And even these people on the weekends who are like passive hunters, the weekend warriors, they don't have like very expensive equipment. They're not going out there with thermals. These people are very much, you have one that wants proof, but also is like, I'm going to get a couple trail cams and set them up and bait traps, and they want Bigfoot to come to them. Then you have the people that go out hiking and looking, but they don't bring cameras, they don't bring bait. They're very much just about like the experience. Those are the people. Those ones specifically, like these two types of Bigfoot hunters, are very much the people are like, well, my cousin Joe said he saw him and he is over here. You know what I mean? Like they're the ones that are very much the like storytellers, or man, we were on this hike and we totally saw a Bigfoot, or we totally saw like markings.
You could almost say it's almost like a ghost hunting, where people go for ghosts and they don't expect to always find ghosts, but hey, I heard something whisper in my ear, or Sam got his butt touched,
and it's the same thing.
Sammy,
and it's the same thing for the ghost hunters too. It's this, and then you have the third type, right? And the third type are the literally spend their lives buying equipment, going out to places very far, chartering flights, doing what is like when you think of like someone saying like we're going on a Bigfoot hunt, this is what you think of, right? And these are the people who literally, I would call these more like, these are hunting expeditions. These are planned trips to specifically go and do this. They bring all sorts of high-tech equipment, thermal imaging, radar sweeping, like sound capture. They're doing satellite imaging. They're doing satellite GPS. They're usually people who experiment with like camouflage. They set up, and they're usually pretty avid hunters themselves too, because true like avid hunters go on trips like this, right? Where you're in the bush for weeks, like you're out in the bush for a week and you're specifically doing this. Those are the ones that make the videos. Those
looking over at your buddy Charlie and be like, piece of grass.
Yeah, let me hear going some jerky.
These are the type of people.
Are those like the ones you see on TV?
Yes. So those are the ones that.
How many of those do you actually believe are hunting Bigfoot, or it's the big production to keep TV series going?
So that's where you see the difference, right? So you can see people who go out and make Bigfoot videos, movies, right? There are set experts that they talk to, and if you look at every documentary, every
it's
YouTube
the same like
video,
4 or 5 guys.
They talk to the same 5 fucking people. Those people are the real McCoys. They're the
like,
ones who have degrees. They have plaster molds of these things at museums. Like those are the ones that I'm referring to as like the true hunters.
And almost universally, the longer they've done it, the more it's destroyed their lives.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like they have careers that have lost.
But what I'm getting at is when you watch certain TV shows and you kind of believe one is real, but then you watch another one. And so where I have the problem with it, like you're saying, they got the big crews, right? I'm more believable if it was like 4 or 5 people like us out looking for Bigfoot, tripping over ourselves, having a good time, stumbling on them, compared to the whole production crew. No, not that's like their life work. It's the TV show where we're going to this area. The experts say this is the area, and every episode has one little tiny tidbit.
Those ones you can tell a mile away, because when you watch the synopsis or the preview, it usually starts with, "We've documented better footage than anyone ever has before." You know what I mean? Like that's usually how they start. And then you're like, oh, they didn't find anything. Like those are the ones. That's exactly. I completely agree.
But we're going to this place because our research points to here, even though no one's ever seen one here.
Yes.
But it's the best habitat.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the ones, are production.
There was a show at one point that didn't focus on a type of cryptid. It just focused on cryptids.
Yep.
And they would just go to areas. They'd be like, oh yeah, like all the Bigfoot activity has been here. And they went out. It's a small crew of like college friends and then like their buddies who are into production. So it's, like 8 or 9 people, everybody at a certain point everybody who's on set is on camera. Like the producers and the directors are on camera and everything. And like the Bigfoot episode, nothing happened. The Chupacabra episode, nothing happens. And they keep getting like, they're crestfallen each time because they're not finding anything. And then they finally get to the Jersey Devil one and something like 3 or 4 things happen. And just watching these like 6 to 8 people lose their fucking shit.
Yeah.
And like they are literally hiding inside the trailer, like under things with lights off, being like, turn the camera off. The camera's going to attract it. And then like the next day they find out there was like a German shepherd loose in the area. That's the whole thing that fucked with them all night. It was great. I can't remember what the show was called, but it was fucking hysterical. But it was totally that idea. Like they were sending this crew who didn't believe in any of this shit to all of these overproduced areas. And there was like 2 or 3 episodes where something happened and the entire crew lost their minds because they were not ready for it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So you have those ones where they react very genuinely, and then you have the other ones. Like there's one right now that's a show that's about like Skinwalker Ranch, and like they're like, there's this dude who's like, I'm a scientific doctor, like blah blah blah. I have all these things. I don't believe in any of this stuff. And then they're like going to this place, and he's like, you know what? I feel very lightheaded. I need to sit down. And then it's like, okay, now you're full of shit, and I hate everything you have to say.
There's a specific show I was bringing up because like I wanted to watch it because I love cryptid stuff too, and it's like, okay, this one's gonna be about Bigfoot. Let's watch this. It actually looks like the production's gonna be good. Very first episode, dude got sick, passed out. He couldn't be part of the crew anymore, and they took the sound bites that they had that day with their dish. So apparently, according to this one, and tell me if I'm wrong, Tom, but Bigfoot also, when he howls, supposedly has one of those lower tones that affects people like a tiger does, makes you feel queasy and stuff. So they took it to the expert and they're like, that's why he can't be with us anymore, because we recorded that sound.
Yeah, no, that's just bullshit. Like that's not a thing. There's like only a couple records of what they classify as like Bigfoot noise, like Bigfoot verbalization. And it's not like anything that you'd expect. Like people like, oh yeah, those are Bigfoot growling, and it's like, okay, Bigfoot doesn't growl. Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if you listen to the actual like recorded audio of what they call like the most like scientific or the best recording of Bigfeet, it sounds like they're speaking Japanese. Like they're actually speaking.
I have not heard that one.
No, I'll show you guys later.
That's creepy.
It is haunting, right? And you're hearing these fucking things talk. And it is like, oh, even talking about it right now, I'm getting goosebumps. Like, and that was the thing. It's a hunting camp this guy had, and he said that he's seen lights in the sky and all this stuff, and that's when he became popular. Is when he started talking about the alien stuff, and I was like, cool, that's where he lost his way. But this recording they had, it was at this hunting area ground that it was a very hidden area that they used to hunt at. And they came across, and that was the thing too, right? Like they had recording devices and stuff because they wanted to take pictures of their hunting camp. They wanted to show like their family and friends, like this is where we go on the weekends. And they've literally made a shack out of these giant logs that they prop up around a tree, almost like a teepee. And they were like, yeah, we used to hear like tree knocks and stuff like that, which is always, number one telltale sign that there's a Bigfoot is nearby. A tree knock. Yeah. And then they said that there was one night that they were actually like, they felt like they were being hunted by a pack of these things. Right. And they were down by the river, which was, give or take 150, 250 yards away. And these things are talking, and it sounds like they are fucking outside of this encampment. And people did like research on the audio and stuff, and they're like, yeah, humans can't make those like vowels, like those sounds, and not sounds, but like the depths of what do they call that?
Like the pitch and tone is off.
Yes, yeah. So, and they're like, humans can't do that. Now, do I believe that? Not necessarily, but the fact that like these dudes, their story was legitimate as to why they had the recording equipment. Their reasons for being there were legitimate. And this was before he started talking about seeing lights in the sky after he became popular. You know what I mean? Like, and this is so alien compared to everything you've ever heard of Bigfoot that I was like, okay, yeah, this could be, this is fucking
some
scary.
Yeah.
And that's like, that's one of those things that like changes your whole perception because when you.
So do you think Bigfoot is more of a hunter?
Well, I mean, he has to be. He's got to be.
I don't take in part of the whole Bigfoot's a nice big fluffy, hairy man. No, I take more part of like there's the whole thing that happened in Russia in the 60s, and there's another show I watched. They were talking about, I think it was in Alaska. They call it the hairy man.
Yeah,
you're talking to the thing in Russia. You're talking about the thing where
the 60s were
the whole like college group went missing.
Yes, where the whole college group.
Oh, in the mountains.
Yeah, like that one's like really creepy. But then in Alaska, there's another show I was watching. And they were talking about. God, I wish I could remember where it was. There was this remote logging area in Alaska, and people would disappear, and people would come back from the woods seeing the hairy man hunting them.
Yeah.
And of course, the locals have been there for years, have the legends. And it's like that whole campground disappeared because the amount of people that went disappearing.
Fuck that.
So yeah,
I got a Bigfoot story. You guys want to hear?
The Dolotov Pass incident is the thing that happened.
That's it. The pass. Yeah. Yep.
You guys want to hear my Bigfoot story? So I went camping with my family, right? Out in the mountains. We weren't like super deep. And I mean, obviously, it's my Bigfoot story. So to take it for what you will.
What mountains?
I don't remember. I really
around
don't.
Here or
probably fuck, dude. I was young. I think I was like maybe 10 or 11. So we went camping. We found like a little campsite, set up our tents and whatnot. There was like a lake next to us. Pretty much hung out for the day. Like made some like hot dogs, random shit. And then at night, I remember waking up in the middle of the night and hearing something like drag something across like the tent. You know how tents are made of like that nylon shit?
Yeah.
So you can yeah, exactly. So I remember something, and I've seen Blair Witch at this point.
Yeah.
So
you're don't get me wrong. So everything is Blair Witch.
Exactly, yeah.
Everything freaks you out at night.
Yeah, exactly. I'm freaked the fuck out. So I hear that and I'm just like, oh my fucking God. I'm wide awake, right? And then I hear footsteps, but these footsteps are not like, if you hear like a deer or like a dog or like a wolf, a coyote walk through brush, it sounds different than what it would if it was like a human, or something that has a really big footprint.
Yeah,
this thing was crunching things underneath its feet, and I remember hearing that walk around our tent and then do another half circle and then walk away. And I was not about to take a look at whatever the fuck this was. Could have been
just pop your head out. It'll be fine.
Could have been a bear or something. I don't know.
Probably more likely a bobcat.
You think it was a bobcat?
Yeah.
It sounded like it had huge feet.
Bobcat do. Bobcat have enormous feet.
Really?
Yeah. Their paws are bigger than your hands.
Yeah,
maybe it was.
Yeah.
But the scratch on the tent.
Yeah,
I don't know what
that's
that was.
weird.
Yeah,
that's
but the
weird.
scratch on the tent, was it low or up high?
Yeah.
So if our
you're bringing
tent
back
is like
memories.
4 feet high, I feel like I heard it probably about maybe 3.5 feet. It was the top quarter portion of the tent.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I freaked the fuck
no, that's
out.
creepy.
Like,
That's creepy
that's
shit.
Creepy.
yeah, and that's what woke me up. Like, because it was right next to my head. It was
Mhm.
like,
That's the thing.
and I was like, what the fuck? And
Well-
then I heard the crunching.
Yeah.
Because it was dirt behind me, and then it was like the forage and shit, or like whatever the
Foliage.
Foliage. Thank you.
Yeah.
Foliage off to the side.
Yeah.
That's where I heard the crunch. I was like, oh god, dude.
The biggest thing that I really want to do is to go on like a very, very deep, long hike, right? Like now Bigfoot hunting, like, yeah, sure. Like that's what I want to do. Like I want to do a full blown like expedition, but
Right.
realistically, the way that I would do it is that I would pick somewhere.
Financially.
Well, I mean, I would pick somewhere to go hunting. I would go on a long hike, a backpacking trip through the woods, probably somewhere in Oregon, just because you can get some really good deer up there, but somewhere
Right,
like
exactly.
that. And I would go somewhere so immensely far away from people. Right? Like I would go somewhere where the animals aren't afraid of you because they've never seen you.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Because that's the place that you're going to find something.
So
People
Alaska.
are gonna look at you and be like,
Yeah. Alaska,
"That's
Canada.
fucking Bigfoot."
I mean, one of the
Like,
big
no, that's
things
Tom.
one of the big things that I want to move to Canada for is to be able to have like a subsistence lifestyle that I can hunt my own stuff. But, and that's the thing, like where my cousin lives in Revelstoke, he's like, oh yeah, he goes in the backyard. It's just 30 miles. His backyard's 30 miles. You know what I mean? Like, cause that's just where there's nothing there,
Yeah.
and I'm
Right,
like,
right.
that's like somewhere you got to take a plane to a lake to get to,
Like Joe Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan does shit like that all the time. He's even talked about Bigfoot hunting. Like he's talked about some of the shit you see out there and how weird it is because the big effect is that things are not afraid of you. Like squirrels and shit will like run up right to you. Like
Yeah, I do that at Balboa Park too, man.
yeah, I know. Well, but like
But out in
Fuck
the
me
forest, it's
Yeah.
because you're just a big dumb human walking around. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, you're not.
They're like,
being-
oh, free food.
well, they'll follow you.
Yeah.
They'll follow you to like, well, what the fuck is this about? Birds will do the same thing.
And that's when you realize when you're by yourself and it goes quiet.
Yep.
You aren't
Something's
alone.
How terrifying that is. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But that's how I would do a hunt is I would go somewhere where I would set up a camp and I would set up cameras, like trail cams around my camp. But everything else I would do is I would just take something super simple, right? Something that had a good zoom on it. And then I would go hunting,
Right.
and that would be my thing because if I were to see one, I would fucking shoot at it. As crazy as that sounds, if I was to see anything that I thought resembled a Bigfoot, is I'm just going to shoot it because,
You got to have that proof.
well, not even necessarily about the proof, but like when most people are like, "Oh my god, it's big that we saw Bigfoot," I'm like, "Yeah, did you antagonize it?" Because that's what I'd do. I'd be like, "Hey," I'd go after it.
Get its
because
attention.
Yeah, because I want to see what it does. Like most
So
of the time,
would you go in the springtime? Like, would you try and decide to go looking
Fall.
around fall?
fall.
So you wouldn't go in a place where there's like easy berries and stuff to eat.
No. So, I mean, yes, like the winter berries and things like that, but
Not,
you go.
not for you.
No. I know exactly what you're getting at. No, I would go at the time during the fall because that's when everything is leaving, right? Everything's leaving the areas, things like that. So
Everything's more active and migrating.
Yeah, well, not so much more active, but in the sense of it's not as densely populated, right? So when I say where there's nothing, I'm not just talking about people. There's no animals, so that your likelihood of being able to identify what is around you is going to be easier.
A lot better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And hunting purposes.
Because the predators follow the food.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So the reason that literally just about to say it, the hunting reasons, right? Most of the animals that are left that haven't left yet are the ones that are easy to catch. They're the ones that are old. They're the ones that are injured. They're the ones that are lagging behind. That's the time, because if I'm thinking correctly of what, a Bigfoot would be.
Bigfoot's a predator of opportunity.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. He's not an apex predator. He's a predator of opportunity, much like apes were back in the day. They didn't actively hunt things. They were like, oh, that a dead zebra? You know what I mean? Like, I'll eat that. Like, that's how they operated. It's if I can take that, because they're not gonna take chances,
So that's why, again, like, I'm more into the theory of Bigfoot will hunt people, especially in that time of year, because, like, you're smaller than me. I'm designed to kill something like you.
Yeah.
Your meat.
Well, yeah, and the two people who ever have like that one guy that I had brought up on one of the other episodes of this, like, he has recorded them and he's lived in their domain and such. One, he's pointed that they don't relocate. They don't migrate.
So you are into the whole thing. It's maybe not caves, but they build their little shacks.
I'm more into caves and some type of dwelling that they create.
We'll have to get into the missing 411 in a future episode. Very, very deep well to tap. And honestly, I'll have to do a little bit like more core research on it. But to give you an idea, the National Park Service of the United States does not actually know how many miles of caves exist in national parks. And the couple of national parks that they've actually done exploration on, they've been very surprised at how deep and how far the cave systems go.
Which is why there's that movie, I think, Stay Alive, which is very creepy.
Stay Alive?
I think it's Stay Alive. The premise of the movie is, they go spelunking. Oh, look at us. We're hipsters. We're going to go spelunking in a place nobody ever goes to. And then there's an earthquake and they're trapped and they get eaten by the subhumans.
Oh, the Descent.
Descent.
Oh, yeah, the Descent.
Stay Alive.
Stay Alive is the video game one. Yeah.
Yeah. Descent is amazing.
Descent is a great movie.
Is that one of the movies you told me
with
to
all
watch?
the girls? Yeah, in the caves.
Yep, and they get eaten by the subhumans out in the forest.
They're like super pasty bat people.
I feel like you told me to watch.
Yeah,
this.
I did.
It's good.
Yeah,
you should watch it.
That's the thing too, because when you look around the world too, when you watch all the TV shows and they go to places, it's like, hey, we discovered a new cave system. Oh, how much of it have you explored? Oh, 4 miles worth, and we have no clue how deep it is.
Oh yeah, no,
those literally don't know where it goes. Yeah. Everybody has a camera. A bunch of people have travel bugs. A bunch of people make their living off of producing content, and travel content being a very big draw. People discover these big, like, I don't know what the type of cave is called, but it's essentially like a hole in the ground, and they're big. They're like, a football field across, and
sinkhole.
Yeah. And there's trees growing down there and people are like base jumping into them. And these are things that people...
About the one in China?
There's a few.
There's a bunch of them. These are things that people didn't know about like 20 years ago. I mean, Chalk, who was on our last episode, they stumbled across like ruins that no one knew were there. They were the first people to find them. And,
he goes to a place that's overgrown in a jungle and things get lost in jungles.
Oh yeah, all the time.
I think I heard about like a big sinkhole in China that they found like prehistoric trees or some shit down there.
Yep. Yeah, there's all sorts of crazy ass shit. There's a sinkhole in the Middle East somewhere that's been on fire ever since it was discovered.
Oh yeah. The
hell hole.
The pit of hell. Yeah, the hell pit or something like that. They're like, it's still burning, and you're like, yeah, fuck that. There was a dude who
there's I can't remember the name of the town, but there is an actual town in the United States that Silent Hill is based on.
Yeah.
It's an old coal mining town.
Yeah.
And there's still a coal fire happening underneath it.
Fire like in the 50s.
Yep.
Oh, it's just still smoky?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's still burning,
It's still
actively burning underground. Yeah. I think there's like 5 people that live in.
The Centralia Mine
People that
Fire.
live there?
It's in Pennsylvania. The fire started in the 80s and it is still burning.
Oh, see. Yeah. It's yeah.
At its current rate, they assume it will continue to burn for the next 250 years. I'm sorry. The Centralia Mine Fire is a coal seam fire that has been burning in a labyrinth of abandoned coal mines underneath the borough of Centralia, Pennsylvania,
coal
since
burns so slow.
May
Is that
27th, 1962.
Yeah. Well, there's just so much fuel.
Yeah,
It's
so
just how
burning
much
all
there
tons of
is.
coal in that mine.
There's
and
how
it's just
much there is, and it's just
constantly
But yeah,
just pumping it out.
just enough air to just let it keep a slow
Yeah.
burn.
Yeah. So it's just like a big.
That's literally what the movie Silent Hill is based on. Silent Hill is a Japanese guy read about that ghost town in the United States and then wrote.
I gotta watch that again, dude. It was a good scary movie.
See,
Well, do you guys remember? Do you guys remember? I think it was the 2007 fires. One of the bridges that goes over the 163. I think it's the one that you could walk across into Balboa Park. The inside caught fire and burned for 3 weeks. There's no wood inside that bridge anymore. It all burned.
I don't remember
that
I don't
one.
remember that. No.
I mean, I remember a
bridge
lot of
was
shit
smoking
burning back
for a while.
then, you know?
Yeah.
The one I mainly remember is the one that lasted it lasted a long time, but like for a week, like it looked like the apocalypse outside. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah,
it was in the late 90s.
That happened twice here in this county.
Yeah, 2005.
3 times. No, actually 3 times. I can remember that happening.
Hey, it's happened a couple
We
of times.
got drunk at my buddy's house, then we got evacuated. It was dope.
Yeah,
So
a week that was awesome.
I actually during the really bad ones, the second bad one, the ones that happened in the early 2000s, it wasn't 2007, it was earlier than 2007. The one where like a bunch of the farmland burned. I was playing a Warhammer 40K game and I started getting flu symptoms and I went to a friend's house to lay down and I passed out with the flu. And when I woke up like 24 hours later,
Apocalypse.
there was,
You were
not
like
only
Rick
apocalyptic, people thought I died in the fire because nobody had been able to get in touch with me for 24 hours.
Right, dead. He's dead.
And this was like the early cell phone era. So like I had a cell phone, but the idea of having it always charged was not really a thing yet. So it was like off or whatever. I was like, I just have the flu. People can find me. But during me passing out
I was at work the whole time and everybody else went home because I lived out in Riverside County. So I was like, yeah, I'll stay at work. So I just watched the apocalypse at night.
Right.
Oh yeah. The 2007 fires, we drove back at 2 or 3 in the morning because it's when I worked for the haunted hotel. We were driving back at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And as we were coming across the bridge across one of the lakes in like North County area, it must have been Lake Hodges. You could see if you looked out the window to the east, there was a wall of fire. And if you looked out the window to the west, there was a crescent of fire. I drove to my old condo and me and my buddy passed out. And when we woke up and turned on the news to check on the progress of the fires, they were like, this entire area has been evacuated. If you are inside this area, you cannot leave. And I'm like, oh, fuck, we're in the middle of that.
Yeah.
So what we did was I had a bunch of bottled water. We literally drove to the firefighter / police like blockades that were blocking people from entering the area, and we gave them water. We're like, hey, we're stuck inside. We can't leave. You won't let us leave because it's too dangerous to leave, and you won't let anybody come in because it's too dangerous to come in. Here's some bottled water because I know you guys aren't prepared for this.
So maybe that would be a thing. Like next time Yellowstone or one of the forests go up in fire, go along the borders and look for Bigfoot running out.
Right.
Oh shit!
I'm sure Bigfoot doesn't like fire
Unless he's in a cave.
Being that you bring that up, well, you had mentioned that like stuff can get lost in a jungle, and like very obviously, jungles overgrow. But yeah, forests are dense, and having hunted, I've got 2 hunting experiences that I don't equate to being a Bigfoot sighting, but they're both wiggity, so I'm going to share both of them. So we went down to the like upper like Sinaloa area, the high plains of Mexico, to hunt mountain something deer. No, we were hunting goats. Anyway, what we were hunting doesn't really matter. We were on a hunting trip in northern Mexico. And everybody got drunk because that's what you do. That's the thing that Tom just pointed out. People go on these trips, they go to the outdoors, they get fucking hammered, you have a good time. No one's thinking you're going to see anything.
Yeah.
I got to be sober for 3.5 hours of this day. The rest of the time.
It's not for the sole purpose of trying to catch a fish. It's the experience of fishing and relaxing.
It's catching a buzz, not catching fish.
Yeah. If you got fish,
they don't call it catching, they call it fishing, Mark. Okay.
Exactly.
I hunt fish.
I hunt fish. We were out there. It was the second to last day, and there had been boar sightings in the area. So two of the guys were like super charged. They wanted to go get wild boar because wild boar is a problem. Wild boar is a problem in southern U.S. and northern Mexico. So we decided to pack up where we were going, come out of the high plains area, and go down to where these boar had been sighted. So we come down, we set up our tents and everything, and it's cold, but it's not the cold season. And we set everything up, we go to sleep, everybody goes to sleep for the night. About 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear something walking through camp. And it wakes me up a little bit, and I kind of roll over, and I do that like half listen, like listening to figure out who's up and like what they're going to do and if they're going to be jackasses and start talking around the fire. Then something brushes the side of the tent. Just like Marky was saying, this is the whole reason I fucking remember this. Something ran its hand or the side of its body or whatever all the way along the side of the tent. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I heard this like low guttural moan or like growl and something. If you've ever been around a puppy that doesn't quite know how big it is yet, and it just comes over and like sits on you and like falls on you, like slams into your body, like a German Shepherd, like a 1-year-old German Shepherd just comes up and like flops on you because they still think they're small. That's the sensation that I got on the side of the tent. So of course, in half asleepness, I like fucking nudged it. And then I rolled over and I kind of went back to sleep. So the next morning I woke up and I'm like, which one of you jackasses fell asleep on the outside of my tent? And they're like, what are you talking about? So I give them the whole recall of the entire experience. And they're like, no, nobody. Like, start looking around. And there's animal tracks. Yeah, there were animal tracks that look like a big cat or a bear that had come through the area.
Puma, but Puma is not great either.
Yeah. Probably mountain lion or bobcat, but I actually shoved it. Whatever it was, I shoved it. I'm like, what the fuck? Get off my tent. And apparently it didn't go, I'm gonna murder you. It went, what the fuck touched me? Because it wasn't there.
Out of it. It was like, what's in that thing?
So what the fuck? Why did the blue neon thing touch me?
Yeah.
It's like,
Second story I've got, we were up in Washington State. We were bow hunting. It's one of the few times I've been bow hunting. And we were going after deer, but I really wanted to go after something bigger. I wanted to go after elk or something. So we're in a portion of the upstate Washington, forest that like no one goes into unless you're a hiking enthusiast or a camping enthusiast or a hunter. There is no one out there. There is you. And it's that situation where animals aren't afraid of you. Squirrels come up, rabbits don't run away. Even the deer will watch you as you get closer and closer and closer to them. So
yeah, that's a fucking trip whenever you see that.
When
you spot a deer and then start walking towards it and it just fucking watches your ass. Yeah, it's fucking weird.
So we're coming down into a chute, a natural depression, like a ravine that leads down to one of these glacial fed rivers. And the glacial fed rivers are cool because they literally look like blue Gatorade. The water is so cold that it is like electric blue. It's really cool to see. And so we're coming down into this area and there's a group of deer. And it's the exact same situation that Tom's mentioning. They see us approaching and none of them move. And then like they slowly start to move, like the younger ones kind of move a little bit towards us. And then like you can tell that the mothers, the pack watcher kind of starts to move off because you're getting a little too close. You're within 25 to 50 yards, they'll watch you. You're within 25 yards and they're like, maybe it's time to move a little bit because this big clumsy thing is walking towards me still. So they start to walk off and sort of move everybody away. And we go down to the water and just basically decide to chill for a minute. And we're sitting there for probably 5-10 minutes, and we're being loud and we're talking, and we've got our bows with us. We got rifles with us. Nothing about what we're doing is quiet. And one of the guys that I'm with stops in the middle of his sentence and goes, "It's watching us right now." And we're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And he points, and right across the river, which was fordable at the area we were in, there was a bunch of gravel, a bunch of rocks. There's a fucking 14-point buck standing there 7 feet away from us. And he's like, it has been standing there staring at us the entire time. It hasn't moved. It was that moment where, is that a deer or is that not a deer? Is that not a deer? Because that deer don't give a shit that we're here.
It was a Wendigo.
Is that one of them not deers?
Yeah, one of them not deers.
Skinwalker.
I don't think it was a Wendigo. I would not be surprised if it was something else, but I definitely want to get into Wendigo. This is one of the stories I was saving for when we talked about Wendigos, but it felt apropos to bring up because Tom pointed out the fact that sometimes you're in nature and nature just doesn't act the way we expect it to. And he just stood there for a couple of minutes and then at some point got bored and walked away, which is probably a good indication that it was just a deer.
I would have shot in the ass.
None of us.
Yeah.
There was a feeling that gyrated between profound peace and outright horror at the fact that it was just staring us down. Is this a powerful connection to nature, or is this we're going to get our faces ripped off by a bad deer?
The deer starts growling. You're like, what the fuck is happening?
Why is it talking to me?
Somebody shoot it. Somebody shoot it now.
See, that's the thing everybody forgets. We're the top dog in the world, but we're only the top dog because of our thumb.
Yep.
That's the only reason.
Yeah, we know how to make tools, and we can out endurance anything on the planet.
You're out there in those woods. That buck will kill you.
Oh yeah, dude. Even not in the woods, man. A fucking deer fucks you up.
I mean, that's
Coliseum, dude.
That's the reason why tractor trailers got those big bumpers still for driving out in the middle of nowhere, so you don't destroy.
You ever seen what a fucking deer does to a car?
Yeah.
What is it, Tommy Boy?
A moose.
Was that Tommy Boy?
Tommy Boy. It's fucking just breaking through the car.
One of my early jobs was working on a dude ranch. I worked with horses. I worked with people, training people how to ride horses, training horses how to be ridden by people. And the guy that owned it also owned a ridiculous amount of cattle. So some of it was, checking the outside perimeter and all that. That was one of my first jobs. But when I worked there, and this is not a cryptid story. This is not a spooky story. This is just an eye-opening experience. When I worked there, somebody hit a horse with their car.
Oh God!
Destroyed the car.
The driver did not survive.
Yeah,
the horse survived.
Yeah. Well, it's like what happens with moose, man. People run into a moose, and that moose is just like, "Oh, fuck! I tripped." And the car's just.
What was that? Why is this kind of thing screaming? I have more stories from when I worked with horses, and including a string of unexplained horse deaths that we never tracked to a creature, but we were pretty sure was wild animal attacks. But I will bring those up in the future. Any closing thoughts on Bigfoot or Bigfoot hunting? Have we covered pretty much everything? Is Bigfoot hunting something that exists in other countries? That's a huge question that I've got. So do people like Yeti hunt?
Yeah, not so much. You find culturally that Asian cultures specifically do not chase their folklore
because it's real.
Exactly. They have a lot of respect for it. And similar to as I was saying, like Tibet and things like that, it's very much a no. You don't fuck with that. You just let that be. Even in places of like Eastern Europe, with the difference of Russia.
Yep.
Russia people they hunt. Like,
They eat
but
everything.
to them, it's not for scientific exploration. It's more of survival. You know, they'll hunt something like they hunt.
You get on the extreme areas in Russia, and then it's like the same thing.
Yeah. Well,
you don't go there. You can go over there.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
they are, because they have so many predators. You know, like their thing is they're like no. Like, you know, I mean, they actively hunt predators as a thing. Like, so it's a very Western culture thing to Bigfoot hunt and to, you know, go after these things like that, mainly because of
that pioneer thing, right?
Well, our estranged relationship with Native Americans. You know, it's a very strained history. So you have a lot of people that are very, very intrigued by Native American culture and want to find these things out because they didn't grow up learning it, you know, from that aspect. So that's why we, you know, this is our country is in like America. You know, if you're not a Native American, like your history doesn't come from here.
Is there like Native American lore?
Yeah, Wendigos, skinwalkers.
That would be their.
Yeah,
there's one too I've seen before on the red giants that hunt and would eat Native Americans.
Yeah.
They live in caves.
Yeah,
in the middle of the desert.
They have a lot of different things depending on the region, because
it depends on the tribe.
The tribe, yes, yeah, exactly. Often in Canada and northern, you know, you get a lot more of like the Bigfoot type, you know, thing. And down here, you get more of like the Wendigo and the shapeshifters are a big one. So a lot of that description is between Bigfoot and the aliens.
Wendigos do not stereotypically exist in southern climates. A Wendigo is a cold weather creature.
Cold weather.
But Wendigo is it has become ridiculously popular in a very short period of time. So I grew up having this like half cultural experience, because very much the European side of my ancestry is the environment that I grew up in. I had very, very little connection to, almost no connection to the Native American side of me until I was probably middle school-ish. And that's when I started to learn a little bit about it and started to interact with it a lot. I did not grow up on a reservation. I did not grow up connected to more than like, oh, you know, great cousin so-and-so lives on the res. I didn't really grow up with that like immediate connection of a grandparent or a parent or whatever being res connected. But when I started to hear stories of the Wendigo and everything, I was probably like 10, 11, 12. And it was when I lived in Washington State, and it's a big thing up there because they're a cold weather creature, and they were absolutely fucking terrifying. They are not at all what they are or what they became culturally. By the time I hit college, Wendigo had kind of become like oh yeah, you know, the abominable snowman, the Wendigo, the Yeti. And I'm like, those are not all the same thing.
Yeah, that's not.
And I don't,
these things not like the other.
Yeah. And I don't know how it got looped in there. And then I want to say like
white people,
early COVID, people started reporting seeing weird shit.
There was a lot of stuff that came through on that.
And you know, I think TikTok probably didn't help, but not that it made it worse. But there's that whole
the reason why you started seeing more during COVID, because there were people that were forced to stay home, and they've showed it all over the world. You know, more animals that normally stay away from man are like we're starting to push the borders back out again.
Yeah, no, you weren't kidding. That was an actual thing.
Yeah, just like what was the movie with Will Smith? Fucking.
You say I Am Legend.
I Am Legend.
I swear to God.
Yeah.
Well, why? Why?
Because you're gonna talk about fucking lions running around this fucking New York.
I was talking about like the deer and shit in the middle of the town.
Yeah, deer showed up. Black bears became a problem. Black bears venturing into neighborhoods they'd never been into before.
Mountain lions. There was a lot over here in Idlewild and Julian. Mountain lions were coming down.
One of the things that's funny is that there's indigenous talk and there's black talk, you know, essentially indigenous people on TikTok and black people on TikTok. And one of the things that's funny is there's a lot of like TikTok videos of indigenous people or people of color being like, when you hear a baby at 3 o'clock in the morning, turn the white girl part of your brain off and go back to bed. Do not go outside to find the baby. It's not a baby. It's trying to eat you. And it's just sort of funny that like these things that I learned and heard very early in life, you know, culturally, like from my grandmother, from both of my grandmothers, about like, if you hear these things, don't respond. Were just things that like I grew up with. I didn't, the whole idea that there's dumb white people go out and explore in the middle of the night is funny to me, because I'm like, oh yeah, that is a huge thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll dive into all of that.
What is that outside my window calling my name?
Yeah, why does it know my name?
Yeah,
I should go.
I'm excited
for
us to go over Wendigo episodes, because those are going to be fucking terrifying.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think that closes us up for our Lorus Obscurus episode on Bigfeet and Bigfoot hunting. Obviously, usually we try to tie everything back into Warhammer 40K. I think the easy tie-in here would be there's probably, one, we know that there's people who hunt through the sump for archaeotech all the time. That's something that exists in lore.
They also hunt for sumpfoot.
Oh yeah. Well, and you could think of an archmagos being assigned to the planet to track, to track stuff in the hive. And like at a certain point, the archmagos just gets bored. He's like, man, I've identified 70 different types of hive rat. I know 30 different types of hive mushroom. I would keep hearing this story about sumpfoot. I'm going to go look. So there's definitely all sorts of storyline stuff that you can plumb there. When we introduced, we did our first cryptid episode, we laid out like 3 or 4 different critters that live down in the sump. So obviously there's all sorts of stuff that you can play with. We've hinted at the idea that there are sump shrooms.
There you go. Here's a tie-in. Back when Caliban was around, and Dark Angels,
right?
They would go on hunts for great beasts.
Yep.
And those great beasts were actually chaos beasts.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Caliban was soaked in chaos and would corrupt the animals, and the knights would go out and hunt the animals. So there's your cryptid tie-in.
I like that, actually.
That's a great part of their origin.
Yeah. Where they're chaos, and they have little 3-foot dark figures that talk to them.
Fucking dark angels.
Yeah, they're evil.
Fucking dark angels.
I knew it the whole time.
See?
So many times I want to go in like Dark Angel Discord channels and be like, fucking traitors. I knew
they are.
You should do it. Now you should. Now you've got a reason. So we talked about, we've joked around about there being hive shrooms down in the sump of the Innsmouth hive. These mushrooms that people eat and psychedelically trip. But what if, Marky, with your sump foot and where he lives and what he does, what if there's giant mushroom forests in the sump?
Ooh.
And that's where Sumpfoot lives.
You just take a bite out of the tree and you're just like, I'm about to trip.
Come with me to a magical land.
I'm sure the deeper you go in that sump,
right? About to trip for like the next 48 hours. You guys live in this forest like a wild animal.
I know we're standing in a giant mushroom forest, but do you see the fucking dragons?
They're purple.
And that could even be a thing. Maybe Sumpfoot thrives off of that and it doesn't affect him. And that's part of hiding there.
Every time we talk about like various levels of the hive, I always want to watch Valerian, even though that movie kind of sucked, just for the fact of like the spaceship that's its own planet, basically.
Yeah, there's so many levels to it.
There's so much shit to it.
With the really crappy like actress.
Yeah,
she like couldn't act.
The actor, both actors are very stale.
Yeah.
Is that Valerian in the City of 1,000 Planets?
No, that's Jupiter Ascending.
That's the one with him, her, or
Jupiter Ascending is not.
No,
Jupiter Ascending actually isn't that bad of a film.
I haven't seen
it. Not, but it's not good.
It's not good, but it's not bad.
Valerian's
like a Twilight sci-fi.
Valerian's really good at emphasizing it. In fact, it's actually
world building.
Yes, I was like, it's a really good movie to watch for the fact of world building aspects, because they have so many different races that they bring in from aliens and stuff like that. And the ship itself is basically like a space Hulk, like it takes a lot of it's a bit of a squint, you got to like squint to really see it, but you can see connections,
Yeah. And it's not bad.
It's just not
the movie's not bad because of the plot or the premise or anything. It's literally bad because Cara Delevingne and Dane DeHaan, the two main characters, that the two main actors have absolutely no on-screen chemistry, and Cara Delevingne has the acting chops of a cardboard box. So it's just unfortunate. It's the same. It's Luc Besson, right? It's the same guy that did Fifth Element. Like, it's the same director. It should have been better. And in a lot of ways, Jupiter Ascending, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's the same way. There's a lot of interesting world building. There's a lot of interesting bad creatures in it. And in that case, Mila Kunis and Channing Tatum aren't the worst pair. They act off each other really well, but it does that thing that a lot of science fiction, like space opera, does, where they try to shoehorn in the romance really, really fast and really, really overbearingly.
That turned me off from it from the trailer. I was
like,
this looks like Twilight in space.
Yeah. Basically.
Well, the other thing that made it bad was that, like, the bad guy is creepy as fuck until he gets mad, and then he turns into a whiny little bitch. And like, if he had kept the Bond villain badness, if they had toned down the romance 10% and he had kept more Bond villain the entire time, the movie would have been better.
The cool part about that movie, like relating it to 40K, it's like you're seeing the sci-fi, and to me, it had a lot of the feel of like what a lot of 40K stuff would be. Like, there's a ship battle, and it's like, oh, how is this gonna happen? Well, how are we gonna get through it? And it's like, oh man, that's 40K crap.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna melt you because we're gonna farm you to keep us young.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's like the whole premise of the whole movie is they wipe out planets, and spoiler, they wipe out planets. It's a Juviant stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like one of the dudes is like in a giant vat of it, just like swimming around having sex. He's like, hey, look at me. This is all the people that we just wiped out from this planet.
Species.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So it deals with the royal family, like, kind of tearing itself apart. And the main
I'm never gonna watch this movie.
Like, that whole part of it to me was like,
it's
cool.
100%. It's 100% 40K. It is very 40K.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe eventually I'll watch it.
The dragon,
to watch it.
The dragon things, the like army of the bad guy, like the main bad guy, they're like these winged
they're like
saurian things. They're fucking badass.
Sounds like a lot like Dark Eldar. Like a lot like Dark Eldar.
Yeah.
Dark
Well,
Eldar
it's
have
like the
Sylvanist or whatever. The
snake
lizard
people.
Yeah, snake people.
Yeah, these were more like lizard dudes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, even the good guys had a very like, we were genetically engineered to be the Space Marines feel to them.
Yeah, except it's dogs.
What was that really gnarly movie of like the dude that goes, like, he's from Earth but he goes to Mars and he's like a superhero essentially?
John Carter.
It's
stupid as fuck.
You didn't like it?
Dumb as fuck.
I thought it was fun.
I never seen it.
Fuck.
This is a Disney one, yeah?
Yep. Stupid as fuck.
It's an old 1920s like pulp comic. It's very fun, but it is like Brandon Fraser and the Mummy fun. And if you didn't know that going in, it would piss you off.
That's still an insult to the Mummy. How bad this movie is.
I knew it was going to be corny, but I was like, oh, that's cool. But they like the execution was not great.
It suffered from what, like, late pre the Expendables, late Schwarzenegger movies suffered from. It was trying to tap in to a very specific type of like pulp action that had gotten very, very popular at the end of the 90s, but it was trying to do it 10 years later with much higher CGI budget, and it was missing the beat. Like it could have been a lot better if they had stuck to the roots of what they were trying to do rather than trying to make it flashy.
It was like an Avatar wannabe almost, right? You know, you throw somebody in a new world and they have to adapt and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And they become the conqueror because they have a thumb.
Yeah. Anyway, John Carter sucked, and we'll go back.
It's a very good book series, though. They're or comic series. They're very fun, like pulp, and there's a bunch of them.
Just start knocking, like Bigfoot.
Yeah,
right.
Three times.
Well, if anybody listening wants to see us do some Bigfoot hunting, let us know, because I want to do a camping trip sometime soon. Mark and I have actually been talking about going to Renaissance Fair pretty soon.
You didn't say anything about hunting Bigfoot.
I have been wanting
at
to
a
do
Renaissance Fair. There are types of Bigfoot.
I have been wanting to do a camping trip. So if anybody out there wants to see us have some fun in the woods, let us know. We'll make a Blair Witch movie or something stupid.
You need to
stop go ghost hunting. It'll be great.
Are we going to frolic?
Yeah, we'll do something stupid. But if not, I think this is our last episode for Bigfoot, right?
Yeah, so this wraps up our coverage of Bigfoot. There's probably stuff we left out. There's probably things that we could go into a lot more detail on.
We'll probably touch on him as we go through other cryptids and whatnot.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
he's the dedicated of cryptids.
If you could say that for this episode, fully dedicated, quote unquote, episode for Bigfoot.
We're going to move on either to extraterrestrials or to another cryptid. We'll leave it up to you guys, to our listeners. Let us know which direction you want us to take. We definitely have content for both. Our Lorus Obscurus episodes are going to stay in the wiggity world of extraterrestrials and cryptids for probably the rest of, I would guess, probably the next year or so. We'll probably return to ghosts at some point. But with that said, we want to know your ghost experiences. We want to know your cryptid experiences, and obviously we want to know your
alien probed or anything. You know, just let us know.
Yeah, your alien
experiences. Pick up a rock and you get probed. Apparently,
yeah, man. In a cemetery,
or if you have any of your 40K lore stuff that you want to share with us. Are you bringing up the wet butt story again,
I didn't
like
bring
for the fourth time?
I'm just letting him know.
Marky's just saying, if you hear babies crying in the middle of the night, that's not yours.
Don't go outside.
Marky is saying that if you want
outside and don't pick up rocks.
Yeah, Marky's saying if you want your butt grabbed, pick up white rocks in a cemetery. That's what he's saying. So yeah, guys, if you have any spooky experiences, cryptid experiences, ET experiences, UFO experiences, or just some creepy ass lore that you want to share with us, you can email those to us at jimdarkgaming@gmail.com or underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com. Another way that you can interface with us is to join our growing Discord community. All of these guys, all of these personalities here that you are seeing are pretty active on the Discord. The exception might be me, because usually I'm editing or working on something.
Right.
But we're definitely there. We're definitely easily accessible. That's another way you can get us your lore and your questions. If you want to support the podcast, you can do that in two different ways. The first way is that you can like and subscribe to us on various podcast services, as well as obviously sharing us and getting us all of that social media pluggage that you can do. Those always help. Those reviews on Apple, those subscribes on the subscribes and 5-star ratings on Spotify help. All that stuff definitely helps us out. Another way that you can help us a little bit more directly is through our Patreon, which is patreon.com/underthehiveofmadness. There you'll find some resources and other goodies that we are getting ready and getting out to everybody. But the big thing that you get at our lowest tier level, our $3 a month tier level, is you get a video version of this podcast, which is a little bit less edited than the audio version that you are probably listening to right now. And you also get into our
all
contest.
This.
Yeah, it's the best way to watch, like hands down. Especially with what Ryan's been doing lately with editing and stuff. It is by far the what I would call prime choice of watching the podcast.
Well, thank you very much. But yeah, it'll also get you into our painting contest. We do a painting contest 4 times a year. We give away a trophy So that's pretty nifty, neat thing, we all feel. There's also some other stuff there. We're developing some role-playing assets and some world generation assets and just some different stuff that you guys can play around with. To get all that access, head on over to patreon.com/underthehiveofmadness and check out what we have to offer. You can find us various places around the internet: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We've got links to everything and correct spellings down in the show notes. Well, Marky, it sounds like those riots aren't really quieting down at all. You think we're going to need to blast our way out of here, or think we can just hang out and have another few rounds?
Hey, there's nothing wrong with buckling down and having another brew.
I don't see nothing wrong with a little bit of explosions.
Well, I mean, this is the Bolter brain, so explosions and shots are definitely
you can go put that back away, lady.
Mark just talking shit about Chuck snorting fucking drugs,
snorting
Mark
mushrooms.
He's snorting bolter powder.
Keep it tuned to 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio to keep appraised of all of the things in Vox Frien's mouth. Remember, when you're out in the fungi forests of the Sump hunting down Sumpfoot, the shadow behind you, that's not Sumpfoot. That's a four-armed emperor. They're gonna murder you. Those exist. We know they exist. We know that.
Don't eat shrooms and be around
four-armed emperors.
You gotta be careful, man.
When you give a four-armed emperor a cookie, he comes back and takes your arms.
Be like Jack Black, he's just gonna come at you.
Just suck your ass.
Bite him.
Motherfucker.